As all of us no doubt have been dealing with, this past year has been quite difficult. Just about anything that could occur did occur, and our utility, the Department of Public Works, the wastewater, the water, and the stormwater utilities, and our Bureau of Solid Waste really had to deal with quite a bit of problems and challenges, but we have pulled through. We are persevered, and I'm very happy to say that while it was difficult, we have made some tremendous progress on the modified consent decree, and we are doing some things that I think everyone will be very, very proud of, and that are really going to take us not just a small step forward, but a giant leap forward in how we address the issues of sanitary sewer overflows and ensure that we're complying with the modified consent decree. So at this time, I will turn it back to Odessa, or do you want me to introduce Paul?
You can turn it back to me so that I can handle a couple of quick housekeeping issues.
Excellent.
Thank you. So, Paul, I do need you to advance the slide for us. And I wanted to make sure that I've informed everyone, as part of the requirement for the modified consent decree, we have to record this actual meeting so that it can be placed on the website. So we have started recording. If you do not wish to be on a meeting that is being recorded, you may exit at this moment, and then we will be able to showcase all of this information on DPW's website. It will probably be loaded in a few days. So the video of this meeting will be available in a few days. As the acting director mentioned, this is the annual public information session, and I want to make sure I help you with a few housekeeping issues regarding Microsoft Teams. Very much everyone has already come in and you are already on silent, and we also noticed that most of you have deactivated your camera. We are making sure that you have your camera deactivated. As I mentioned, the meeting is being recorded. If you have a question or a comment, please place it in the chat room. You can see if you are on a PC, not a Mac, this is what the display would look like. So you may raise your hand, you may submit a question in the chat. We're going to have this entire section of the meeting without questions and answers because we will move into breakout rooms, and at that point you'll be able to ask questions of the experts. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Paul DeSantis to start the presentation. Paul. Paul, you may be on mute.
Yes, I'm that guy. I will start over. Well, good evening, and thank you for attending the 4th annual public information session on the city's modified sanitary sewer consent decree. We will be keeping a similar agenda as in the past, and we will still have learning stations at the end of the presentation, albeit this year they will be digital ones. If you've attended these information sessions in the past, you have heard me explain the background before. But for the sake of new attendees, I'll go over it again. I think it's important to start with some of the historical context here. Over the past decades, dating back as far as the 1950s, local jurisdictions were focused on the expansion of the water and wastewater utilities into the surrounding counties. This was a big effort to provide public utilities to those areas to accommodate growth. Unfortunately, the city did not invest as much into the maintenance of the original infrastructure within the city. And as these pipes age, cracks can form, joints can become loose, and that allows for stormwater and groundwater to enter into the system. It's what we refer to as inflow and infiltration, or I&I. It's a term you will hear a lot tonight. And I can contribute to sanitary sewer overflows during wet weather, and those overflows constitute a violation of the Clean Water Act. Consequently, the city entered into a consent decree with our regulators in 2002 to address those overflows. And the consent decree had a number of important requirements. We had to evaluate our sewer sheds. The collection system includes about 1,400 miles of sanitary sewer in the city alone, and about 71% of that system was over 50 years old. Thus, it was important to understand the state of the system in order to properly remediate those problems. We also had to develop a hydraulic model to evaluate flows through the collection system, and then the consent decree set forth projects that the city would complete to reduce overflows, and those were set to be complete by 2016. Now, the city was not able to comply with that deadline, in part because we discovered a hydraulic restriction at our Back River wastewater treatment plant. And I'll refer you to the slide, which contains an image with an area highlighted in pink. The large wastewater interceptor leading into the plant was actually lower than the headworks of the plant itself. And thus the collection system needed to build up a hydraulic head in order to push the influent into the plant. Now, the pink area on the slide is the area where the collection system actually filled with sewage in order to create that pressure. Because this area is always filled with sewage, it affected the capacity of the system and how it functions. So once we understood the scope of this almost 10-mile hydraulic restriction, it forced the city to reevaluate its plans to remediate the sanitary sewer system. And we went back to the drawing board with EPA and MDE and modified our consent decree. So we're here today to do a couple of things. First, we want to give you some background on the modified consent decree. We want to provide you with updates on the work that we're doing to remediate the sewer system, really connect you to the people responsible for that work, and then we want to answer questions that you might have. Now, when we drafted the modified consent decree, we didn't simply add a few more projects onto what we agreed to do in 2002. We did add more projects, specifically the Headworks project that is designed to eliminate that hydraulic restriction, but that's not all we did. We developed a new strategy that implements adaptive management concepts as seen in our two-phased approach, which creates a specific performance goal for our system. So we're not just completing a list of projects, we're completing existing projects plus the Headworks project. That should reduce about 83% of the sanitary sewer overflow volume that we've experienced. Then we're going to step back, evaluate the impacts those projects have had on our system. And then from there, we'll design and complete any further projects that are needed to establish a certain level of protection, that performance standard. We want a 5-year level of protection citywide and a 10-year level of protection for sensitive areas. Now, we also extended the time frame for compliance, and we did that for 2 reasons. First, we're doing more in the way of work, and I think we're making sure that we're doing things correctly. And extending the time also allows us to do work for less money. We only have so many contractors doing this type of work in the area, so we did not want to get artificially high bids for our projects by stressing that market. We want to stretch our ratepayers' money as far as we possibly can. Now, this is a lot of work that we're doing, but we're also looking at this as an opportunity. These projects will generate a lot of work that will cost a significant amount for the city. We're taking the time to help develop small businesses to do that work. We didn't really want to be in this situation, but if we're here, we can at least use it as an opportunity to help grow jobs in Baltimore. And hopefully that competition means that projects can be done cheaper and better. So as I noted, this is a pretty heavy lift for the city, and it requires a lot of coordination between DPW's various offices, as well as our program management team. And on the screen, you will see a list of the different offices that are involved in the modified consent decree. Again, the modified consent decree is a relatively complex legal document, and it addresses the sanitary sewer system in a holistic manner. The various requirements are broken down into separate paragraphs, and tonight we are going to walk through some of those requirements. And the first will be paragraph 8, which addresses sanitary sewer overflow structures. So SSO structures are essentially pressure releases that were designed into the system before the Clean Water Act was enacted. When a pipe section reaches its capacity and is unable to transport sewage, an outfall was constructed to discharge that sewage to a nearby stream. It had its purposes from an engineering standpoint, but it's certainly not good for water quality. It's certainly not the way we design the system today. So we're going to eliminate them, but we just can't seal them up. We have to ensure that the system has the capacity to handle the expected flows. Thus, we have to monitor those flows, and then we have to make sure we design an appropriate fix. Now, to date, we have eliminated 60 of the 62 structured overflow points identified in the 2002 consent decree. The 2 remaining SSO structures discharged to the Jones Falls. We will be able to eliminate them once we fully construct the Headworks project and ensure that we have eliminated that hydraulic restriction. We have subsequently found an additional 15 overflow structures, and we've been able to eliminate 6 of them. One of which was eliminated this past year, and I believe that was in the Herring Run sewer shed. That leaves us with 11 SSO structures that we're currently monitoring, and we have approved plans in place to eliminate all of them, and we can start evaluating if it's safe to eliminate these structures as soon as some projects are completed. And that brings us to paragraph 9, which are phase 1 projects. And as discussed earlier, the modified consent decree utilizes a 2-pronged approach. And the first step here is to address a list of projects that we had set forth in Appendix B of the modified consent decree. The deadline to complete the last of these projects was December 31st, 2020. So of the 40 phase 1 projects, we have experienced delays in about 7. And that has been caused by a number of different issues. We have had legal disputes. Project changes have been necessitated in order to limit impacts to our parks. We have had a couple of projects that have encountered unforeseen conditions during construction. And then we've also had impacts caused by the COVID pandemic. Nonetheless, over the past 12 months, we have completed 6 projects and are pushing hard to finish that outstanding work. Once phase 1 is complete, DPW will then be able to fully evaluate the progress made during phase 1, and then we can start changing the focus that we have. Because some of this ongoing work is limited, we've actually already begun working on our post-construction flow monitoring, and we've even begun designing some of the phase 2 projects, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. Here we have some examples of the types of projects that were set forth in phase 1, and the focus really was the remediation of the system. Now, in addition to the construction projects, the city is required to provide some additional deliverables to the state and federal regulators. As discussed, we're nearing the end of phase 1, and we are preparing our post-construction flow monitoring plan. And we've been installing additional flow monitors in our system in order to get that data to determine how our system's functioning now. We've also submitted timely quarterly progress reports to the state and federal regulators. All of these are posted on our website for public review, and you'll hear me say this a lot tonight. We're proud of the work that we're doing, and we want you to utilize DPW's website to stay updated on our progress. Here's an example of a graphic that we provide in the quarterly report to show progress, and it's something we're trying to do to make this digestible for the public. Now, our biggest phase 1 project is the Headworks project at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. The Headworks project will eliminate that 10-mile hydraulic restriction. It's an expensive fix. It totals approximately $430 million, but per our hydraulic model, the phase 1 projects will eliminate about 83% of the SSO volume that we've been experiencing, and Headworks is really responsible for the lion's share of that reduction. DPW has completed the new screening and grit removal facilities, and most importantly, has constructed the new pumping station that contains 8 pumps with a combined capacity of 750 million gallons a day. All the pumps have been tested, and I'm happy to report that the pumps were activated in December. So we have flows through the new Headworks project into the Back River wastewater treatment plant as we speak. This has allowed the treatment plant to receive increased daily flows, but the treatment plant itself has a capacity limit. It generally treats on average about 150 million gallons during the course of a year. But 150 gallons a day during the course of a year, but it can safely handle flow events as high as 425 million gallons a day. With the addition of these pumps, we can utilize that whole 425 million gallon a day capacity. The city is also poised to put holding tanks into service that will allow the plant to store an additional 36 million gallons to accommodate even higher daily flows. And I can draw your attention to the photo on the slide. The buildings with the red roofs are the screening facility, the grit facility, and the pumping station. And those are just in front of the Golden Eggs, or well-known landmarks at Back River. And in the foreground is actually one of our holding tanks. You can see is filled with treated effluent, and that is because we are conducting hydrostatic testing as a final step before the tanks are put into service. Paragraph 10 addresses illegal connections. The city has a plan to eliminate illegal sewer connections when they're identified, and these are often clear water connections, things like roof leaders, which direct stormwater flows into the sanitary sewer system. As we discussed, we don't want the capacity of the sanitary pipes used up by stormwater or groundwater. If the capacity of the sanitary sewer mains are exceeded due to the introduction of those clear water discharges, the system can experience overflows. Most of the city's enforcement actions occurred in the early phases of the 2002 consent decree. So thankfully, we did not find any new illegal connections in 2020, so no enforcement was necessary. DPW is continuing to look after its pumping stations. The city is not flat, so pumping stations are used to push sewage over higher elevations so then they can gravity flow. And happy to report in 2020, we had no overflow events or any events that could have resulted in an overflow in 2020. One of the most impressive tools that the city is utilizing is our hydraulic model. And the model helps us predict how the system functions in different situations. So it is necessary to help us determine the impacts of our phase 1 projects on the system, as well as planning for phase 2. And we even use the model to evaluate the impacts caused by individual rain events. Over the past 12 months, we've utilized the model to develop our post-construction flow monitoring plan, which will allow us to evaluate the effects of our phase 1 projects. We have already done pilot studies using rehabilitated portions of the sanitary system, and the model is always a necessary component that allows us to determine if we can eliminate those overflow structures. So we certainly rely on it a lot. And as a result, updating and calibrating the model is important to make sure that we're using the best tool going forward. You may have seen this graphic before. It shows the various sewer mains that are included in the hydraulic model. And that brings us to paragraph 13, which is our operation and maintenance. And DPW established the Office of Asset Management to work on proactive maintenance of our utilities. Our asset management staff prepared our O&M plan, which was approved by the regulators in 2018, and we did do an annual update that was submitted at the end of 2020. And you can find all these updated documents on the website along with the O&M progress report. So the goal here is really to switch from a reactive mode where we're responding to pipe failures or chokes in the system to a proactive mode where we're conducting preventative maintenance on our system. And here we have a list of some of the preventative maintenance done by the Office of Asset Management over the past 12 months. We're cleaning our collection system, treating the pipes to address the buildup of fats, oils, and grease, which we'll commonly refer to as fog. Treating the system to make sure that there is not an intrusion of roots from trees, and we're conducting inspections of food establishments to ensure that they're properly disposing of their fats, oils, and grease. And as part of our effort to work smart, we are continuing to utilize technology such as a mobile app to help our maintenance workers access CityWorks, which records, reports, tracks, and to resolve our customer service requests and work orders. We've continued to expand on our use of CityWorks and have not experienced any disruptions to our operations during the pandemic, so we're happy about that. DPW's plan to address sanitary discharges of unknown origins was approved by the regulators in 2018. We've also continued to identify and abate SDUOs as we find them, so we are making progress. We have discovered 11 SDUOs over the past year. We've abated 15, and that suggests that some of those were holdovers from the previous year. And we have 3 SDUOs that are outstanding. So we submitted our revised emergency response plan to the regulators in April of 2018, and we are still working with the regulators to finalize that document. In the interim, we are continuing to conduct annual training to ensure that our staff is well drilled in the ERP requirements and protocols. And we are continuing to track and report on sewage overflows. That data shows that our efforts are working. We have seen a pretty consistent reduction in SSOs since 2012, a 30% reduction from 2012 to fiscal year 2020. We did have that uptick in fiscal year 2019, but that captures a lot of the rain that we received in the summer of 2018. And as you might recall, 2018 was a record year for rainfall in Baltimore. So we expected to see that increase. But we are seeing those numbers coming down once again last year. What is interesting is that we're still seeing a significant number of dry weather SSOs. In 2018, approximately half of the SSOs were dry weather SSOs. In 2019, obviously due to the wet weather, that percentage was reduced to about a third, but we're still seeing about 40% in 2020 of the SSOs that we experienced were dry weather. So even though we're making progress and we're doing a significant amount of work to proactively maintain our system, we can always use the public's help here. Properly disposing of fats, oils, and grease and other waste help prevent chokes from forming within our system, and it reduces our maintenance that we are required to do. Residents can also help by maintaining cleanouts on their properties to allow the city easier access to maintain lateral connections. And we have materials available on the consent decree page of DPW's website, and we'll also have some at the learning station at the end of the presentation. The city continues to monitor water quality around the city under our Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit, our MS4. DPW conducts ammonia screening on a weekly basis, and stream impact sampling is conducted monthly. Now, this information provides general data on water quality, not specific information on sewer overflows, because we have a lot of contributors that can impact water quality. Development activities, human behavior, we're changing regulatory schemes, historic pollution, weather patterns, and there are also activities elsewhere in these watersheds. It's important to note Baltimore County is also under a similar consent decree. They've been diligently working to improve portions of their shared sewer system. Thus, water quality data really captures all of these factors. So there's not a direct causal relationship between water quality and the reduction of SSOs or the elimination of SDUOs, but we can still look at long-term trends. Over the past 12 months, here are the numbers from our Office of Compliance and Research related to our water quality sampling efforts. They're doing a lot of work, but really the big question is, what does the data show? In Baltimore City, our waterways are frequently impaired for bacteria. In freshwater systems, we look at E. coli as the indicator. What the data shows is that we are not where we want to be yet. We're not below that red line on the graph, and that would indicate the period in which we would be safe for recreational uses, not the period, but the standard at which we would be safe for recreational uses in the stream systems. These stream samples are taken during dry weather conditions, and although there is not a direct correlation to SSOs, we may be still seeing impacts from dry weather overflows. So we can still do more to reduce overflows and properly dispose of fog, keeping trees away from our sewage lines and not flushing wipes. All those things will help reduce some of the overflows we are experiencing. And we all need to really do our part to keep the public system working. And we've seen similar data for our tidal waters. In this case, we're measuring Enterococcus, which is a different bacteria. Nonetheless, the results are similar. We're not where we want to be yet. And that brings us to paragraph 20 and some of the public outreach that the city is doing. The city has produced new brochures to help educate the public on the reimbursement program, how to safely clean backups if you experience backups in your basement, and maybe most importantly, how to prevent them. And to that end, the city has also produced social media campaigns to help educate the public regarding the proper disposal of fats, oils, and grease. As noted previously, we update our website with deliverables when they are submitted to our regulators, as well as other information that's aimed to increase public engagement. So please utilize our website to keep updated on the work that we're doing, and you can even sign up to receive notifications on our webpage. Now, phase one of the consent decree required almost $3 billion in construction work. And we still need to complete additional projects under phase two. Recognizing the amount of work being generated, DPW has taken the time to help develop minority, women, and disadvantaged businesses to start competing for that work. This year, due to the pandemic, we provided an online course, but it was still including instruction management training with instruction on estimating and bidding, management best practices, program management, contract administration, bonding, and participants also obtained support in getting certified and pre-qualified with the city, which is sometimes a difficult task for new businesses. We want to have folks out there competing for jobs, and that competition can only help us get this work done better and cheaper. And it's been a very successful program and one that we want to continue. So we will have a new class forming in September. So in review, the city is doing more to prevent sewer overflows through its modified consent decree. We're thoroughly evaluating our collection system, and especially now that we're getting to the end of phase one, we're doing a lot of work there. We're trying to work smart, completing projects in a way that's economical for the people of Baltimore, and we're trying to reinvest and help build small businesses. But that's not to say 2020 was not without its challenges. Obviously, the pandemic and other delays we've experienced have required us to continue work past the December 31st, 2020 deadline. But we're trying to limit the impacts of those delays. We're able to already begin planning our post-construction flow monitoring, and we've even taken to undertake the design of some of our phase two projects where they're siloed and not impacted by some of those delayed projects. So we're still working ahead and trying to make sure that those delays aren't going to have impacts on the next phases of our program compliance.